Morning everyone. Today is lecture 07 E524 Digital MOS LSI Circuits. Today is 25th September 2020. So last time we were talking about CMOS inverter, and we also learned that CMOS inverter will have NMOS and PMOS, where NMOS can transfer the strong zero logic, whereas PMOS transfers the strong one logic. And that's why when you're making the inverter, CMOS inverter, the swing is from VDD to 0, or you can say that it's rail to rail, or it's a full swing. Whereas if you are making a circuit which looks like this one, NMOS is replaced with PMOS, then you cannot get the full swing, but the swing will be from VTP to VDD minus VTN, where VTP and VTN are the threshold voltage for the respective device. For the case of VTN, it's NMOS threshold. For VTP, it's PMOS threshold. So all these things we have studied, and we also studied that the most important part is the RC circuit, understanding of RC, which you have already studied in your BTech first year or wherever, like you have studied it, right? And you can see that because of the first order, the response will look like this one. However, you will not going to see like this. To have such kind of response, you should have the higher order system. And this is the first order, red color. So proper settling and other things are there. First order is good. However, we need to make sure that if this RC time constant is 1 megahertz, I'm giving you just an illustration. So if it is 1 megahertz, and if you are applying 10 megahertz, at the output, you will not going to see the pure 10 megahertz things. But let's assume that this is the thing you are applying. So this is 1 by 10 mega, and the unit will be seconds. Okay. And if I am looking at the output will not settle, but it will be much before the settle time which is required. It's going to change the state, and you will see something like this. So you'll not see the full width output or the full swing output, and it is happening because of the bandwidth limitation of this particular block, which is acting as a low pass filter. It can allow only the frequency till 1 mega. Afterwards, it's going to be attenuated with the rate whichever is given to you. So in between, like I realized that there is very important topic on which maybe people might not have studied, which is just this resistance and capacitance. And long back, I also told that if there is a wire is going to create a path resistance. So you have, if this is red color is a wire, let's assume that this is a wire, and because of this long wire, you will always have the path resistance. So the signal which you are sending here, it is not reaching at the other end. Let's say this is X point and Y point. Y point is the point where I'm looking at the oscilloscope, and X is the point where from where I'm giving the function generator input. And depending on the length of this wire, it will take some time to reach there. This is happening because of one more reason. It's not only the resistance, but there is capacitance is also there. And you know that capacitance is created, which we are going to call it the parasitic resistance, parasitic capacitance. This is happening when you are working at the high frequency, and you need to find out another dissimilar metal. So you can understand if you are doing this on the table of maybe laboratory table, but there must be somewhere earthing or ground, or maybe the nearest plate, whichever is found by this wire, it will create some parasitics, right? And in between there will be some resistances. I'm just drawing some illustrative example where like there are lots of RC are there. By the way, this is also known as the transmission line, where your connecting two blocks, like in a chip, you are connecting one circuit to another circuit, circuit number 1 to circuit number 2. It's a transmission line. It's connecting two blocks. However, you know that in the case of chip design, when you are having such a long wire, it's going to have R and C. Notably, it's not only R and C. You might have inductance also. So depending on here in the capacitance, it was delta V by delta T, which was playing the role. So voltage was changing with respect to time. That's why this was happening. In inductance, it's di by dt means delta I by delta t. Sometimes you will observe that even if you are at high frequency, but at particular node, there is a fluctuation of current, and that is demanding some parasitic inductance. We'll see this effect when you are going at high frequency. Actually, it's also creating inductance. Although we know that it's happening only at low frequency as per the theory, but because of this delta I by delta t, you can see also inductance. So there might be some inductor also. We need to find out where it is. It's depending on the S parameter. So those who are very much interested in such kind of thing, there is one course called microwave engineering or antenna design. If you go there, you can study all these things. Some people who are MTech or maybe PhD, they might have studied S parameter things. We also have studied like BTech students in a course called network theory, where S11, S12, all these parameters are there. So it's same thing, by the way. You have to follow the same thing. And here you will have lots of parasitic, which has to be solved using this S parameter two-port technique, right? So right now we are not going into that, but the main idea over here is transmission line is going to create RLC parasitics that might be like there are two possible things: lumped or maybe distributed. So when you are making the model that whether it's lumped, the basic concept says that the one which can solve with ordinary differential equation, the partial this one is with the partial differential equation, or in other words, it's only having the parameter which is with respect to time, whereas in distributed there is time as well as, or maybe you can say more parameters like time and space, or other things will be there. So that's how it's going to be made. As I told you, like still it's not part of this course. There is no need to worry about it. Just it was coming in between. That's why I introduced it so that you can understand these words. So most of the time, like we don't use distributed. We like to use lumped one because of some like easy reason that you can solve it very easily. The circuit which we have just now drawn, which has RLC just, so it has you can say that in transmission line, this inductance, capacitance, resistance, all are depending on the length as well as time, right? So in that case, the whole thing is actually distributed, not the lump one. Okay, but if it is not depending on other parameter other than time, then it's a simple lump model. Lump can be solved by ordinary differential equation, where you are going to have just dV by dt, whereas in other case you will have dV with respect to dx also, where x is the length. So those are the like internal theory for antenna and micro engineering. But this is the thing which we are going to use it. And for that, I suggest from the same book, I'm referring chapter number 4, the wire, just to understand what are the like lump model and how that has been used. So here we are using only lump model. We don't use distributed. You see. So these are the things, and the whole agenda of taking just this 4.4 is we need to predict that how much delay is created from a wire. Okay, so there is one famous gentleman known as Elmore who has given the technique to find out the delay, whose name is Elmore delay. So that is what I want to teach you from these different topics. So let's start from here, where if there is an ideal wire is like it can transfer anything from one place to another place. However, it's not the true case when you are connecting two points of the circuit through a wire. It's going to have some parasitics. So if you look at this side, it's a distributed one, and this side it's a lump one, where we have assumed that. Now note that one thing, whenever you are sending something here, you always need a buffer circuit. To drive something, you need a buffer. Buffer is required for the reason that whatever the path resistance or path RLC is coming, it should not be getting loaded by the previous circuit. So we are keeping one buffer. Generally for the buffer, we are keeping a chain of inverter. Okay, so chain of inverter means even number of chain of inverter will help us to get the same output this side. However, it's not going to load the previous circuit. But if you don't keep these, then this wire can load this previous output. So we don't want to do that. That's why we are keeping this. Generally, right?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, what is the meaning of the symbol that is in the circle near to be in?
This side.
Yes, sir,
Or
right side.
here. Hmm.
Yes, sir.
Left side or right side? Right side is this
The
one.
right side in the circle near the be in.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, what is the meaning of the symbol?
Till now, I have not talked about it, right? Okay. I'll talk about it. Are you following till now? Right? This is a driver circuit is needed. So I'm explaining only the left side, not the right side. Okay. So left side has driver, although it has been made the like inverter, but inside this triangle with the bubble, actually there are many even number of or odd number of inverters will be there. It's not only one inverter. It has been just shown that there is just it's a representation of driver. You can make this one also as a driver, no problem. Both are fine here. So if you look at the right side, where already one question has been asked. So if you look at this side, other than this wire, if you look at this side, there'll be two things. We have to follow the Thevenin, and through Thevenin you can find out the equivalent driver resistance and the voltage offered by the setup which is at the back side. And as we know that there are various symbols. So this is known as DC, this is known as sine wave, this is known as maybe you can call it square wave, or this is again like you are giving some input which has 0 and then changing from 1, right? So it's like this. This also, like rather than calling it square wave, you can call it impulse also. Sometimes some people are not giving square wave fully, but impulse. For square wave, I need to maybe keep one more. So then it becomes square wave. and this one has this kind of input, right? So that is what's shown here. In most of the digital circuits, we are either giving clock signal in square wave or maybe something like this. Like generally this is square wave only. Okay, and this is plus minus. It's a relative plus and minus, so plus and minus has not been kept here. So this is the meaning of that, which is at that side, and combining all the capacitors together, we are calling it as a C lump, right? Now, looking into that same circuit, means which is here, if you write down the equation, it's C lump times dVo by dt. This is the first one, and the second one is V out minus V in divided by R driver. That is has to be equal to 0. So following the KCL, it's going to be like this, right? All the currents at V out, it's equal to, at this node, it's 0, right? If you try to remember the previous equation which you have studied in previous course, so generally it looks like this one: V out equal to 1 minus e raised to minus t by tau times V, because it's a standard RC circuit, and this is same as what we have talked about maybe here. This circuit is same as what right now we are talking about, and both has similar dynamics, right? The only thing is here this tau is nothing but RC time constant, or R times C. In this case, it's R driver times C lump, right? But now it depends. So if this is the input and the output look like this one. In the case of RC time constant, where it's first order, it's a smooth curve. Okay, so this whole decaying thing is RC. That's the time constant. But now at what time you want to see? Because you might be interested in seeing the output here when it's reaching 100%. Then it reaches exactly V out equal to V. It's a settled one. You might be interested in looking at the output when it's 50%. Notably, we are interested in this one. The reason is we want to see that how much propagation delay has happened. So if there is a wire, let's assume that there is a wire from going from X to Y point. In between, there will be RC circuit, right? It's, by the way, these are the parasitics. So if you are applying here some square wave, output will be like this. So if you want to find out the propagation delay from going from this point to this point, if you zoom your oscilloscope screen, the input will look like this one, by the way, this one. And output, which is here, it will follow almost like this. Now, if you want to declare that how much is the propagation delay, there are many ways to do that. But preferable way is that you need to go to the 50% value and check how much is the propagation delay. So the difference between these two is the propagation delay, not from this point to this point, or this point to like this point to this point, right? Because this is the point where you can exactly find out what is exactly going on, because they might have some extra delay at the input side, which is shown over here, that there is some extra delay. So that delay will not be incorporated in this one when you are looking at the 50%. So you will have the pure time constant which is required. In this case, this will be TP-LH, which is going from low to high. Okay. So if you are interested in 50%, then if you find out this time when it's 50%, you will see that how much time constant you are seeing, you must be known about this number, that it's 0.69 time constant. So always remember, like we are going to look at the 0.69 time constant, and other way, like when we have to drive something, we are going to make sure that it's going to at least match the 7 time constant in other way around. So this is the number we are going to follow, 0.69 time constant. Sometimes some people are thinking that I am not going to look at just 50%, but I am going to look at the 90%, because rise time is depending in the 90%, right? So if you are interested in 90%, then you have to keep that value, which is going to give you 2.2 time constant. Sometimes it's an interview question or some of the competitive exam questions. So you have to remember these numbers, whether if you are interested in 50% point or 90% point. You might be interested in other point also, and you can find out this number. You might be asked that if I am interested at 40% point, what will be the time constant value you are suggesting? So in that case, you can keep this value here and you can find out that, right? So, okay, it is also suggested by Rabe that it's worth memorizing these numbers, okay? So you should remember this. It's a 0.69 time constant where we are going to see the time delay. Okay. Now, the lump model, which we have used, it might be talking about the same what I'm saying, that the distributed RC model is complex and no closed form solution exists. Unfortunately, this is the problem. And that's why we don't want to use distributed RC model where lots of problems, right? Or it's a complex. We are going to use the lump model. But notably, remember, lump model is the one which can be solved by ordinary differential equation, whereas distributed is with the partial differential equation. This is lump model is the one which is only with respect to time. Distributed is the one with which is time and space and maybe so many more. Okay, so the best example is for the transmission line. So those people who are in maybe communication side, they might be using distributed more frequently than what we are using. We generally use the lump model, which is the easiest one, right? So this is what we are going to use for a wire. We are going to use the lump model where you are going to have just a resistance and a capacitor. So let's assume that I am going to connect this wire over here with the circuit number 1. In that case, definitely this is going to give me some capacitor. But to find out the resistance, I need to look into the circuit through the Thevenin. You can find out the resistance which is in this path, and similarly you can find out the resistance looking into the next circuit. The both will be here as a lump model, and you can use them to find out the RC time constant. Okay, let's have one example. So look at this. This is not a complex circuit. This is very simple because RC, you can see all the capacitors are with respect to ground only. Okay, and there are, if you are going to solve it, it's going to be lump model only. It's not a complicated one which requires the understanding of the third parameter. Okay, so here only time parameter is there, and you can write down everything in terms of ODE. So you will have dVo by dt, right, for the case of capacitor, as we have used it here, right? In this equation, it's an ordinary differential equation, right? So you have to add all of them so that you can write down this as a lump model. Okay, so that there are certain properties which has been taken from the book, which says that the network has a single input node. Now I believe the one who has asked me, he know that what is the meaning of this one, right? I can call this one as V in, right? But same thing can be kept here as follows, right? So there are many RC. The capacitors are only between node and the ground. And one more thing, if you remember, there is one concept of tree in graph theory. So tree is a closed loop thing. So if you have something like this, then it makes a resistive loop. If I'm making some Rx resistance between node 1 and node S and node 2, then it's a tree. So in this particular example, there is no tree. If there is no tree, you don't need to follow delta, star, all these connections, right? It's very simple thing. You just go with the RC, what we have learned at the beginning. So it's a cascade of RC with each other, and you have the output. Okay, so these are the properties. Now, what path resistance is? By the way, this whole thing which I am writing here, it's from Elmore. If you want to study its proof, you can go through his paper. It's very old paper, but we are just going to use his theory. What he says, that if you want to find out the path resistance, let's say you are interested from path from S to Ki or S to 4 or S to 2, wherever you want to find out the path resistance, it's not direct addition of the resistances. Look, interestingly, the path resistance is actually equal to Rik, means I is the first point from where you want to start, K is the last point where you want to see. Let's assume that in this particular, I'm looking at RSI. Okay, so that's the summation of all the resistance in the path might be Rj, where Rj belongs to S to I and path S to K. Notably, here this S is the input, so the defined input, I is the defined output, and this is the path where you want to have the resistance. So path going from S to I, input to output, you can see there are three resistances, R1 plus R2, R1 plus R3 plus Ri. Let's say R3. Here it's Ri, R3, and Ri. Right? Oh, sorry. R1. Ri, R3, R1. And S to K, where you are interested. Let's assume that you are also interested in S to K only, S to I only. So then this will be same one. If you take the subset of these two, are going to give me the same resistance. Addition of these resistances are going to give me the path resistance for the case of S to I. However, if I am interested not in S to I, but if I am interested in from S to 2, let's assume that I am interested from S to 2 and I am interested in finding out RS2. Notably, this S to I, which is input to output, will remain same, right? But for the case of this one, path going from input to node number 2, it's only R1 and R2. So when you are taking the subset of these two, you are going to see only one resistance, which is R1. So there is no other resistance, so there is no addition of anything else, right? So the path resistance is only R1. Note that it's not R1 plus R2. This is the most of the time people are making mistake when they are going for some interview or some competitive exam, that you have to find out the path resistance. So path resistance in this case, it's R1. Now let's take one more example so that you become more confident on that. So let's assume that I'm interested from S to 4. S to 4. As we know that path from input to output will remain same, which is R1, R3, Ri. Whereas from S to 4, I am going to have R1, R3, and R4. R1, R3, and R4. When I am going to take the subset of these two, I am going to see only two resistances, R3 and R1, and that has to be added. So the path resistance from S to 4 is not equal to R1 plus R3 plus R4. However, it's R1 plus R3 only. Okay, but the whole theory of Elmore is not only for the path resistance, it's also the Elmore delay. So you know that for a RC time constant circuit, the delay will be R times C. So this resistance has been found out already. You have to find out the capacitance uh, at the following theory. So okay, so path resistance is already found out here. So what Elmore delay says, if you are at particular node, let's call it node K, at every node you are going to have a capacitor, and as many number of capacitance you have, as many number of you will have R times C value. Means if I am interested in finding out the delay at node 1 only, I need to find out the path resistance from going from S to 1 with S to I, which is like this is input and this is output. So you need to find out the subset of these two. The subset of these two is R1 for the node 1's capacitance, which is C1. So C1 times R1 is going to give me the delay associated with node 1. Similarly, you can find out the node 2's delay, which is going to be equal to C2 times, we already have discussed that again, this is only R1, because if you are going in this path, which is R1 and R2, and in this path, the subset of these two is only R1. So the delay associated with 2 is equal to C2 times R1. And at the end, with all the nodes, you need to find out same R times C, and you have to add them. If you add all of them, you are going to have the delay which is required for your circuit. And note that this is the standard thing which is going to be asked to you when you go to any semiconductor industry. Generally, they take one written test most of the time, and they ask such kind of question. You have to find out the delay from the path or path resistance, path capacitance, all these things. So you have to use this Elmore delay theory. Okay, so if I want to find out the total delay, as we have discussed, we'll start with the first node, which has capacitance C2. It has path resistance of R1, because this path and this path has subset of R1. If you are looking at node number 2, where the capacitance is C2, if you look at the subset of path 2 rate paths, you are going to have only R1. But if you look at the path number 3, which is this one, so input to output is R1, R3, Ri, whereas from input to 3, it's R1 and R3. So R1 and R3 will be added along with C3 is going to give me the delay at a particular node. And same thing I can follow C4, C5, Ci. So as many number of capacitors you have, note that as many number of capacitors you have to add all the delay. Okay. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 capacitors, means you should have 5 terms over here. If you are missing any of the term, means you are making mistake. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or the ith. So each node is going to give you RC delay, right? I believe there is no doubt in this, right? I'm going forward. Now let's look at some circuit which is like this. Look, what I showed you was the circuit. Actually, if I am going to tell you how does it look like, actually this circuit, if I want to draw the real thing, in reality, this circuit is like this, whose parasitic model has been drawn and whose delay has been found out. Actually, the circuit was like this. There are 5 inverters, each one of them were giving me RC delay, and through that I have found out this TDI. Notably, this might be only going from 0 to 1, means low to high. So whatever the delay we are going to find out, that is going to be propagation delay going from low to high. Okay, so such things we are going to discuss in detail when we are going to solve this through one theory called logical effort. But right now, let's not discuss that. But this is not the model which has been created. Just you can say that it's not a cooked problem. It's a real problem which is used for the finding out the delay of inverter or the chain of inverter. This is another one where back to back you might have so many circuits which are inverter or buffer. Then you can draw the equivalent model of this one. So again, as I told you, like this is a cascading of few resistances and capacitors. So you can find out the total delay. So if you are starting from 1, the first one has capacitor of C1, and on the path going from input to output, where the path resistance from input to output is actually R1 plus R2 plus R3 and so on, but subset of these two is only R1. So that's why it's only R1. If you're looking at 2, it becomes C2 with multiplication of the R1 and R2 only, because those are only the resistance which are coming on path. If you look at this and so on, you can see that like all the resistance going from input to the ith point, that's going to be added multiplied the respective capacitor. And if you look at all the things together, it's a big expression, right? So this is what going to happen. But note that this expression has been written for the fact that you want to see the output at 100%. That's why it's RC. If you are interested in looking at the output at 50%, this whole expression will be multiplied with 0.69. If you are interested in other point, you can find out respective number and you can keep it here. Okay. So right now, what we are deriving is for the 100%. Okay. Now, be aware that an RC chain is characterized by number of time constant. The Elmore expression determines the value of only the dominant one. Okay, so this model might have some dominant value of R1 and C1. However, there might be some more small capacitance and maybe small resistances here and there, but that has not been taken into account. It's very old theory. Very old means in the last century it has been invented, so it might not be perfectly matching with the current you can say that deep submicron technology. However, it gives still the deviation is not so much high. So this is the thing. Even if it's a RC chain, it's only taking care of dominant one, and you might have some small span of error, and that has to be included in your analysis. Okay, so if you're following the Elmore delay, but this is going to give you the quick first order approximation. It does not have the second order. Okay, so this is the thing. Now let's come back to
Sir,
yes.
sir, is this formula applicable to only cascaded network?
No, any network. This formula is actually, you can say it's applicable for lumped. Okay. If it is distributed, then you have to follow different theory.
So, sir, in any lump network, we can use this formula.
Yes, you can use. As per Elmore, it can be used. But as I told you, this particular RC is characterized with the dominant one only, or whatever the dominant effects are there, that has been taken with the first order approximation. So if your approximation is poor in terms of making this model, so right now what we are making is a large signal model where R1, R2, R3 all will be found out by the equation of the ID. So if your resistance capacitance model is poor, then you will get the bad result. You will not get the matching result. You understand what I mean to say? So if you are making that R2 is a resistance in, you are saying that RDS. You understand RDS is the channel and modulation resistor. But instead of RDS, if it is not RDS, but if it is R-on is the resistance when transistor is in triode region. RDS is the one when your transistor is in saturation region. So if you are making mistakes in such things in making the poor modeling, then you will get wrong results, right? So the whole thing has to be characterized properly. Then you can find out what you want, right? But most of the time, if this whole chain is correct, then you can follow Elmore delay, and Elmore delay is applicable to mostly all the things which is lumped. Okay, not applicable for distributed, right? You can use it in distributed also, but you have to convert that lump to distributed and somehow, right? Okay. So let's come back to again, same chapter number 5, Rabe book, okay, which is CMOS inverter. And CMOS inverter we already learned. PMOS is on top, NMOS is on bottom side. PMOS gives us guarantee that when it is on, VDD will be transferred over here, and NMOS gives us guarantee that when this is on, it's going to transfer 0 over here, right? So these two are the switches. Note that when they are switches has a characteristic that when it's on, the resistance is very low or as low as 0. When it's off, we need resistance as very high as infinity, right? So when we want to do this, note that this transistor is not in saturation. It's not in saturation. It's in triode region. Because triode region is the one which is acting as an ideal switch. So if you remember the IV characteristic, I am making the IV characteristic which is the ideal one, which does not have channel and modulation. You can see over here, this particular region has a linear relation, right? And that is what we want. So during switching operation, we want that it has to be in triode region when you are transferring 0 or 1. However, if your input is exactly at middle, it might not be in triode region. It will change its state to saturation, and when one transistor is on, another is off, it's actually off state. So there are various states are going here and there. That is what we are going to discuss maybe in next few slides. But the thing is, this transistor, when it's transferring the logic 1 or 0, they are not in saturation, but they are in triode region or the linear region. So linear region has as follows. Right? If you like it this way, you can write it down this way also, where Kn is K. It's a constant. You can find out from mu and Cux and W by L, right? And similarly, Kp can be found out for the N and P transistor. So notably, this is the equation for the triode region, not for saturation. If it is in saturation, the equation will be changed, and the equation will be this one. This is for the saturation. But this one is the most important equation for us, and we are going to use this equation. Unlike the case for analog, where we are using the equation only in saturation, because we want to see the output as amplified one. here already we are in the large signal, so with the like you cannot see something like amplification. It's everything is dealing with the large signal. Input is large signal going from 0 to VDD, and output is also 0 to VDD, even though gain is pretty high over here. Okay. Now there are some general information when we are having the switch model. Again, as I'm telling, like this text has been copied from the book Rabe, but some good points were there, so that's why I kept it here. So a number of other important properties of static CMOS. So static CMOS, by the way, what we are doing right now, it's a static CMOS. It does not use any kind of clock. If you are using the clock, it becomes the dynamic. So all the circuits which has clock, it's dynamic. This clock is same clock which we have used in flip-flops and latches during our study of fundamental digital circuits. So if you are using clock, the circuits will become dynamic. So maybe you might be interested in making the dynamic CMOS. How to make the dynamic CMOS inverter, and what we are studying right now, it's a static because it does not have any clock. The high and low output voltages are equal to VDD and ground. So this is acting as a logic 1, and this one is acting as a logic 0. In other words, swing is equal to supply voltage, as I told you. And this is happening because of the case that we are using PMOS at the upside and NMOS at the lower side. So if you remember last time I told you power up network and power down network. So power up network is created with PMOS and power down network created with NMOS. PDN is the one which is connected or the output to digital logic 0. Power up network is the one which is connecting the output to the logic 1. That's why it's they have been named. The logic levels are not dependent on the relative device sizes. So by the way, there are two kinds of approach. One is you are going to touch W by L. So W by L of N and W by L of P. You can tune them if it is required. Most of the time it's required to tune it. But if you don't do that, then also like you can have the output, and if you can you can have every characteristic. But if you want to achieve specific specifications like the switching threshold, noise margin, high, low, all these things, if you want to tune, you need to tune these W by L or the width and length of the transistor. If you are doing that, then that kind of logic is ratio logic. Right now, what we are doing is ratio-less or the ratioed logic. If you are doing that, okay. So it depends what particular thing you are following. If you want to use just a minimum size W by L of PMOS and NMOS, same thing you can use it, and accordingly you will change the specification. That's fine. That is also possible thing. Okay. In steady state is the one where the output is settled, like this one. We just now told that after the delay when it's settled. So the path resistance is the finite resistance between the output, either VDD and ground. Okay, so this is the one which is going to happen. Those people who have worked on such circuit earlier, they might be know that the output resistance in kilo ohms. Right? Generally, these are in kilo ohms, not in ohms directly. Because if you want to make it in ohms, that's the 1 by GM. So there are various parameters like 1 by GM, 1 by GMBS, 1 by GDS. So 1 by GM is the smallest quantity among all these. So this is small. You can say that the smallest one. Little bit bigger than that one is GMBS, and bigger than that one is 1 by GDS. So this is generally in kilo ohms. This is like the lowest one is hundreds of ohms, and this might be 200, 300 ohms. Right. So that is how these numbers are being calculated. This is from the practice, by the way. Okay. So if you don't remember, it's okay. When you are going to run the simulation, you will understand what are the values. Okay. one more thing, input resistance of CMOS inverter is extremely high because you are looking into the transistor. If you are looking into transistor, its model says that input is infinite. If you remember that the model of equivalent MOS, input side it's infinite. So input resistance is infinite or very, very high, and that's unlike of what we are doing in BJT. BJT has input side is some finite resistance. Okay, and no direct path exists between supply and ground rail directly in the steady state operation. Okay, but this is also not the fact. There will be some time when there is small current will follow, which is actually written here as absence of current flow, ignoring leakage current. There might be the case that because of this overlap at a particular frequency, you might have the connection from VDD to ground, and that is acting as a leakage. But if you ignore this leakage, then there is no connection from VDD to ground ever, from this point to this point. It might have different ground connection, like this one. This connection might be there, but not directly connecting both the transistors together. Yeah. Okay, then we'll stop here because it's almost like 10:50. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for today. If you have any doubt, you can ask me.